kind. When I was yours, and you were mine. So tell me now, and tell me true. Am I all me, or a part of you? And are you all you, or a part of me? Muhammad Ali, me.
So we're here in the van. This is a Vandie branded interview with the Cat Empire. This is Felix. And thank you so much for joining me here today.
My pleasure.
And I just realised I wasn't recording the first question on sound, so we're doing it again. So my question was, what is the strangest night out you've ever had with the Cat Empire? Or the dirtiest, or the most hilarious?
The strangest night out I can't remember, and that's the truth. There's not one that stands out in my mind as the kind of mecca of strange nights, but I probably think the early days of the Cat Empire when we're in Edinburgh, very young musicians, playing an international festival for the first time, which involved us living in like a 2-bedroom apartment with like 6 of us or 7 of us. And
was that the Fringe Festival in Edinburgh?
Yeah, the Fringe Festival in Edinburgh. And we played at this place called Leighton Live, which was after the comedy, and our spot was from like 3 until 5 every morning, and I think we had a 3.5 week spot or something like that. And anyway, so the first night there must have been only 15 people in this big old empty hall, and we weren't sure what was going to happen, and Harry invited everyone on stage, and then from that night onwards, like the whole show was spent with everyone on stage. And then so from that point on, the word kind of spread amongst the performers that was the place to go, like the after party each night. And so we'd have like people juggling chainsaws and bagpipers and just really strange stuff happening, like theatre performers, comedians like naked wrapping themselves in gaffer tape. This, like just really weird, kind of funny stuff happening. But we would play for hours, and the gigs turned out to be really fun. So by the end of the season there, people were hanging off the rafters. It was full, and we'd usually, in the mornings go to the pubs or up Arthur's Seat with this like very strange collection of people. And I suppose because that was the early days and everything was new and exciting.
And you guys were so young too.
We were so young.
Yeah,
it's a bit of a haze looking back at it, but I think that they were probably the most strange, dirty and wonderful nights that we experienced here.
Excellent, cool. In maybe the grottier days of touring, did you guys have any strange games or ways you would determine who gets the best bed in the hotel?
Not particularly.
Some sort of race, or?
Well, half the time we weren't sleeping in beds. Well, not half the time, but I mean...
Where were you sleeping?
Well, like, we got to this festival one time. I remember this is probably the worst festival experience we had. It was just so poorly promoted and really amateur. Anyway, the rooms that they offered us were, like, so foul. And this is, given we were prepared to sleep in some pretty dingy places, but the rooms were so foul that we ended up being put on the top level of this building, which was a deserted bowling alley with some sleeping bags, like a 10-pin bowling alley.
Oh my gosh.
That hadn't been used for
They gave you sleeping bags, or you had your own?
I can't remember the details. I guess they probably gave us some sleeping bags, and that's where we slept that night. It was the weirdest place to sleep.
Shit.
And I don't know. We didn't really ever have any sort of like paper, scissors, rocks system. We just kind of did things together, and there weren't usually that many opportunities for one person to be that better looked after than the next, really. We were very much a big band where everyone shared the love and
like
and
nine or so
suffered the
members
blows as well,
True.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. There's such comradeship as well. That's awesome. My last question is something that's like much more down to earth, and something like I've watched quite a lot of interviews with the Cat Empire in research, because I didn't want to give you any boring questions that you'd answered before, and hopefully I haven't so far.
No.
But the last one was relevant to probably what musicians like myself would like to know about you and the Cat Empire is, do you work a day job? Like, have you been able to rely on your music career to get you through life comfortably and financially comfortably?
Yeah, well, the Cat Empire's been my life, really. The only other job I've had was working in the country when I was a teenager, and a job I lasted about half an hour in, which was when I was at first year creative arts. I was supposed to hand out posters, and honestly, I'd lasted half an hour.
That was it?
Yeah, and then gave up. So, like, the only job I've ever had is doing gigs. And Ollie and I met when we were about 13 or 14.
Ollie, the keys player.
Ollie, the keys player, yeah. And we started doing gigs when we were 15, and that's... I moved out of home the day I finished school, pretty much, and we would do gigs to pay the rent. And
awesome.
Yeah, it's been a sustaining band. There's a lot of mouths to feed, but it's been
That's
a
true,
great.
Yeah.
It's been a great band. It's had a long career.
Yeah, and much longer to go, I don't doubt.
Yeah, no, it has. I mean,
until you can't stand those sleeping bags anymore.
Well, luckily we've moved out of the sleeping bag days, but it's true. I mean, we've managed somehow to remain together and do pretty well out of this. this caper, and I feel very fortunate for that. You know,
That's
we get to
awesome.
play music to very dedicated fans each night. People who come
Very
out
true.
and bring a sense of occasion to the music. They really do. You know, I think the Cat Empire's quite a special band like that because it can't be easily explained, but it's so much about the people who
Yes.
make up that. You know, the demographic is just as hard to explain as the
Oh,
music is.
so
You know what I mean?
broad.
To have that sort of, you know, that real celebration, that mystery of who these people are and what we're doing, but they're still coming together to be a part of it is something that I'm really happy to make
Yeah.
money from. I really do remember very, very vividly standing at the end of an alleyway thinking like, oh, people are going to rock up to this gig, you know, as
Of
a
course.
17-year-old or something like that. And then doing our first proper big show and the Cat Empire was like, oh, this really could take off. And I remember thinking to myself, if I could do this every night, I'd be as close to happy as I can find, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Every fading yarn to music, that's the language of a soul.
And I guess
it's
the
not-
point where
it's
the
not
money doesn't
always-
even matter, hey.
Well, I suppose so. Yeah, the currency of the performance is definitely the thing you do it for. I mean, it's the music and the rush and the art that pays off, really. But you know, you got to make a living, and
Of course.
and you know, it's good to make a buck out of something you love.
True that. Cool. Well, thank you so much. That's my 3 questions.
My pleasure.
I hope you have a beautiful time at this festival in Bathurst tonight. Yeah, thanks to Inland Sea of Sound in Bathurst for having us.
Great.
And we'll be dancing out the front later on.
Good one. Good
Thank
to see
you so
again.
much.
Pleasure.
Cheers. Felix, can I have your signature?